morning, everybody. Welcome to Dubai. It's a beautiful morning. Dubai is where I live. First of all, sir, thank you for your nice presentation. Today, we're going to be going over a presentation. It's going to be like chatting. I just want to chat today. You will see why. You will understand why. If you see the agenda, we're going to be talking about IMS and NGN and trends. This is basically the subject of today's presentation. I want to ask a question to the audience, and I would like to see some hands up if there is a positive answer. Is there anybody in the room saying that, thinking that IMS, FMC, NGN, come on guys, I heard enough about it, and talk to me about something else. Is there anybody in the room? Just some hands up. Okay, you want to talk about it. This is what we're going to talk about. First of all, before proceeding with my slides, I would like to thank to some of my friends from the industry who contributed. Sorry. I would like to thank to some of my colleagues from the industry who contributed to this presentation, especially Mr. Ali Kafel. He made good contribution. I want to start from these 4 quadrants. It's about the revolutions that we saw in especially business life. I'm not talking about the human beings' revolutions, but when you look at it, the first one, science revolution, Mr. Copernicus, in 15th centuries, but this is what we saw as a science revolution, when the first science paradigm was introduced. Most of you know the rest of the story. Then comes the Industrial Revolution. So Industrial Revolution, what we did with Industrial Revolution, that's a steam engine. This is how it started. Electricity, auto, airplane, and that gave a big momentum to human civilization. So the third one is information. Information is interesting, and I don't know when it started, but that was the first time that they think information has a value. So to business, the basic essentials of business was working capital, the human force, land, plus money. But the fourth dimension came with information. Information has a value and is a contribution to business. So as you all aware, that digital revolution came into place around early 80s. So that's basically the turning analog things to digital things. That changed our lives. And this is what we'll be talking about today, and this is maybe what all this event is about. So we see a few items here that are changing. Economies are changing. And especially for the last 3-4 years with global recession that we mentioned, it's changing the way the global economy lives. The globalization plus especially the recent recession caused a mind shift for businesses. Businesses are now looking for less, let's say, shorter-term contracts, and they are more cost-conscious, and the way they do business changed. Then regulatory environment changed because, for example, the basic example, the green effect and the global warming, that affected regulatory frameworks. Like now, the regulatory frameworks are pushing more for the use of green energy and pushing for the carbon monoxide emission. Especially nowadays, especially in the Western world, there are now regulations about the telecom equipment manufacturers, how to decrease the carbon emission while production or use green energy. So technology change, of course, we all know. Business culture, a model change, there are no boundaries anymore. And finally, lifestyle change. How lifestyle change? Now, for most of you, maybe all of you, there is no now demarcation between your personal or business life. You have all these handsets, and you are home with your family, but you're still working. and especially the youth, the communities, the social media, everything is changing. So it's pretty much fast change. So what's happening nowadays, or what's been happening to telecoms market from 2005, I think 2004? These are some data that you can see. Voice is still driving 70% of the revenues, but using 10% of the bandwidth. That's interesting. 5 billion wireless subscribers. Only 1 billion are 3G. And 3G is like the overwhelming subject for the last couple of years. And 4G is very small. Still, 2G is overwhelming. As a recent change, as you all know, video is changing the way you shape your networks, you invest, and especially the mobile operators, mobile carriers, you are very well aware of that. But there is also ARPU pressure, especially when you look at the OPEX conundrum. OPEX for developed economies, 85% of their expenditures, and of which, bandwidth is 85% of their expenditures, OPEX. And there's a breakout there. Network OPEX is 20%. That's fair enough. Customer cost is 40%. And interconnect is 40%. This is a huge amount. This is what's changing your networks now. Okay. And with all changes, we started to see and hear about all these terms. And there are sexy terms and nice terms like 3G, WiMAX, LTE, RFID, NFC. And these are all meaningful. These are all meaningful for all of us. Why I decided to put this guy there, if you think about yourself as a telecom technologist, either from business development or marketing, don't you feel this pressure on you? You need to be competent on this. You need to understand these concepts, and you need to understand the implications on your customers, on your networks, on your operations. You need to have a broad view of everything going on. It's happening very fast. Sometimes, rather than this guy is enchained, like us, to technology development, which is very hard to track. Sometimes, and again, lifestyle changes. As you can see, this is all what we're talking about. All these many devices, multiple devices, seamless experiences, always accessible, simplicity. And that's changing our life at home, on the move, as road warriors, if you have international salespeople around you, in the office, and learning, fun. And as I summarize, business culture is changing. So now businesses are trying to do more with less. What do I mean by less? By less capital, shorter contracts, or less human capital. And now for most of businesses, if you think about especially social media or how to digitize your marketing, your users or the users in the enterprise are demanding heterogeneous device support. They need to be accessing your corporate networks, your employees, from anywhere, any place. If not, as the managers, executives, you are pushing for that, because this is the paradigm. And you have new collaboration of applications in that enterprise. And now the businesses are simply converging, and there are sometimes very traditional businesses are now turning into digitized businesses. So that means traditional means of delivering services is breaking down. And as service providers, as the telecom guys, we need to be agile to just meet these demands from all business market. Another slide, that's an interesting slide. That shows the almost 20 quarters since the launch of, I think the first launch is, we can take 1994 as the startup point. when the desktop internet and the narrowband data was introduced as a mass to the market. As you can see, America Online, desktop internet, for last 20 quarters, it's around 20 million, 27 million subscribers, I guess. Or another interesting example, NTT Docomo. I don't know if any of you is familiar with their iMode, but iMode, actually that was the first iPad or iPhone introduced to the market. That was a different model, but the concept was same. It was the same in '99. That's the ancestor of all what's happening today with intelligent tablets or your devices. But when you look at the iPhone, iTouch, and iPad trend, it's skyrocketed in a way shorter time term when compared to the other means. That's an interesting slide. Yeah, as we were talking, now in order to compete and in order to address the demands from the market, the telcos must change. And they must comply with Telco 2.0. What is Telco 2.0? It's actually a concept. First of all, ubiquitous broadband access from anywhere. Your subscribers should be accessing your network services, your services, over-the-top services. And mobile devices are now at a vast range. You have dozens of different mobile handsets in the market now. And there is an explosion of consumable content, which is basically, which starts with video, which suppresses your network, which increases your OPEX, which is basically data. But it's just quadratically increasing. I'm sure when you look at your network reports or usage reports, you see sometimes really surprising results. And the Telco 2.0 model is also putting 3 players into picture. At the core is telco, which is you. And on the left-hand side, you have upstream customers who are mainly pushing the content to your network. Developers, retailers, government organizations, media, advertisers, and so on. And on the other side, you have your consumers, which is downstream customers. Consumers, small, medium enterprises, big enterprises, or public sector. So I wanted to just title it as IMS. And I'm sure, especially a couple of years back, every day you were hearing about, you used to hear about IMS and the trends and the future the bright future about IMS. So let's look at what's happened to IMS and what's going to happen to IMS. By the way, some of the slides might sound controversial to you. Just feel free commenting on them. Most of my and my colleagues' views, but if you have any counter data, I would be delighted to hear. So I'm not going to talk about it. That was, I don't even know some of them, CSCF, but that was the IMS for most of us. Very complex, complicated architecture, and we don't know what it is. So basically, if we're going to simplify IMS, forgetting about all technology, underlying technology, this is an IP-based communication infrastructure, mainly to deliver multimedia services. Open, standards-based, and vendor agnostic. You can these are just typical attributes, just to simplify our understanding. What we should understand, IMS is not a service or application or a vertical service architecture. It's not proprietary. It's not nobody's intellectual property. And you don't need to. The industry, all about the philosophy behind IMS is not locking the telecom operators to big vendors, No, IMS for everybody. It's a democracy for new IP paradigm. But we were talking about very complex applications and very sophisticated services over IMS, right? But as of today, as you can see, these are just the two ones that picked up with IMS, mainly voice over IP. And voice over IP, everybody was happy with NGN, next generation architecture, not IMS. And fixed to mobile convergence. As of today, that's it. End of 2010, there were only a little bit higher than 100 million subscribers using IMS services. And just to remind you, most of them are, again, basic voice over IP services, not complicated ones. And not impressive when you think about 6 billion subscribers worldwide. And so if you look at some of the figures, as I said, it's mostly for VoIP. And this is a slide that addresses the vendors who are targeting the IMS. So when you see this slide, market really hasn't picked up for them either. There are still hopes for the coming years, but that shows that there is not enough demand from the market, or the initial dream didn't come to true. But who knows? We will see a couple of slides later. IMS is turning to a reality with a very, it's a real application now. So the first part, I summarize the attributes for IMS. This is what I like about IMS. This is what I don't like about IMS. And for the ones who experienced that change in their networks, complexity is very high. It's very complex to understand and operate it. And cost is costly. And there are not enough applications. And there is also the fear tactic pushed by big vendors. Like if you go for IMS, since it's very complex, just buy everything from one vendor. But that's not the essence of IMS. IMS is supposed to bring democracy for all service component suppliers. I'm just passing this slide. We're going to be talking about cloud computing, and we're going to set up a connection between IMS and cloud computing. Cloud computing, this is the high-level definition, and most of you know. These are apps and infrastructure over internet. And there are mainly two big usage of it, software as a service and utility computing. And I'm sure most of the audience are very familiar with these terms. And these are the three goals of cloud computing. First of all, lowering your costs as a service providers. And you don't need to learn about complex stuff. And who provides cloud computing services to you as a service provider? They have economies of scale. So how does it match with all this match with IMS? We will see how it's going to match. But this is basically 6 steps, starting from maybe 60s and going to mid-late 80s. It shows just conceptual evolution of the networks. And now these are the over-the-top applications. Again, I didn't come to the point of how we connect this to IMS. Yes. And that's for the IMS. If you remember, IMS, the philosophy behind it is offering multimedia services to your customers, to your subscribers. And now, with the increasing number of over-the-top applications, now you have smaller service providers emerging with some fancy applications, but they don't have the pipe to access your subscribers. And you are the pipe. The telecom operators, either mobile or wireless or wireline carriers, are the pipe. And if they have the IMS infrastructure, then they can connect many of these, let's say, minor or smaller application federations to their network and provide services to their clients, to their subscribers. So this is where IMS comes into reality. Now there is a reality about it. It's not led by anymore by the technology geeks or conceptual drawings or whatever. The business needs, necessity, and demand from the market is now pushing the IMS concept much more stronger than it used to be. And we'll be talking again, we'll keep on talking about the correlation between IMS and cloud around these concepts. So this is first of all on-demand self-service. Think about your enterprise customers, and especially enterprise services like storage or CPU or disk capacity. So you can provide such services to your enterprise customers, and that's on demand. They just click one button maybe, provisioning form, and they make the payment. Here you go. They have the service. And of course, that services should be accessible over broadband, over the network, either through thick or thin clients. Thin clients are the PDAs or handsets. Thick clients can be like workstations at their offices. And that provides resource pooling, which means one single cloud provider can host several applications under several other brands. Like I can offer a pay-as-you-go disk usage, and I can work with many operators, and they can buy from me, and they can white label it, and they can sell to their enterprise clients. And this is very elastic service model. If your client needs 100 terabyte storage today, or I don't know, that amount of megahertz of CPU processing power, tomorrow they might need double or three, and they can easily access that capacity. And that's very idealistic scenario because there is no provisioning, no long provisioning cycles, nothing. Just click one button, your service provisioning button, and access all these resources. Theoretically, these resources are, for the consumer side, are limitless. And also, cloud systems optimize the resource usage, and you can meter. Like, if you think from accounting perspective, the indirect cost, it's pretty much hard to metric your costs and to meter your cost and put into your, let's say, balance sheet. But with cloud computing, you have definite units of consumption. So that's also provides you the performance of your company's IT services. So when combine all these 5 characteristics, and they can be only met, of course, the business paradigm is there, the service paradigm is there. But for technical reasons, let's say, I'm not going to get into these technical reasons, IMS and cloud computing are great matches. And just a few sides. Of course, leverage economies of sales. And as I emphasize, complementary to IMS, that's going to make use of IMS if you have the infrastructure already. And new revenue sources for telcos with new applications. And it's very easy to integrate to your network and just bring to your, take to your customers. You don't need to be worried about complex service development cycles or product development. Just focus on the product marketing side, product management side, build your product, offer to the market, and it's very easy. It's not a technical slide. I just want to show you how IMS and cloud computing just overlay each other. Let's say on the left-hand side, you have the mobile device agent, and this is your core network, and this is internet, and these are the service providers, and they are using you as pipe, and they provide, you provide actually, under your brand, or they provide directly using you to your subscribers new services. And this is how they fit well together. So that second slide talks about the same thing. So that's a summary for my short presentation. If you are interested, I have backup slides with tons of technical information, but I didn't want to put any of them here. So as I try to summarize, telecom industry is changing fast, creating both challenges as the technology workers for us, but also great opportunities. Deregulation and competition. Deregulation is encouraging the competition big time. So optimized network operations and lower CapEx, lower OpEx became a big necessity for competitive environment. And there is a great market dynamic now to deploy solutions that can drive or increase your revenues today. And as the last word, although it's very exhausting and tiring, it's very exciting to be in telecoms nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gurkan. Any question from the audience? We've been talking in length about IMS, and this has been also in length discussed in the industry for the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years now. Apart from the implementation of voice over IP service for fixed operator, or actually some mobile operator enter into the fixed market, and eventually IP-centric solution, so far, actually, IMS has not been really adopted for a larger scale of services. So first of all, apart from the voice service, and eventually this will be even further driven with the topics we'll have in a few minutes on LTE, eventually voice is the only and sole widespread application for IMS, which is actually a very poor sign of our industry, talking about a platform called IMS and ending up after 5 years with only one really application that is taking off. Yeah. Where are all these services we're talking about in terms of chatting? You switch on your TV, you have a chat, you can continue a call from your TV set to your mobile phone to all this is not happening. And my question is why after so many years we're still talking about the future and the future is not happening? And second, what was the barrier? And second, what is the service beyond voice that you will see really taking off with IMS?
Okay, that's a nice question. Actually, yes, we've been talking about this like for the last couple of, like 5 or 6 years. But to my perspective, the market, the demand was not there yet. Because the industry is supposed to drive the demand, but they couldn't drive the demand for services. I mean, for end-user services, subscriber services. But now the demand drives the industry, and it's very quick and changing and dynamic demand, especially for multimedia services. And Facebook or YouTube kind of applications are easy applications, but they are mass applications. So now there is a demand, and that must be met. But I think we lost so much time in discussing the core of the IMS without discussing the services or how we're going to access the users or through what means, that we just lost the focus. But now industry realizes that there is a need for such services. Just let me give you an example about the industry development. For example, Tata and iBasis, especially Tata, they are big. For the last 1 year, and I've been talking to iBasis CTO about it, they've been developing an IPX infrastructure. This is actually a peering infrastructure for multimedia. But they are not developing this IPX infrastructure concept to interconnect, let's say, Etisalat to France Telecom on multimedia. No. They are developing this infrastructure, this framework, and Tata is doing the same, just to connect small and minor service providers, let's say niche service providers, and to an infrastructure so that they can use the operators, global operators or local operators, as their pipes. So now, for example, and that IPX infrastructure, if it starts working out, combining like the big providers, pipe providers, and small players, then that IPX infrastructure will require IMS core.
So what you're saying is we will see a need for IMS because of the social network. That was your first part of your answer. And what you're saying is right now the IMS could be used for actually a mere interconnection platform.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Any other service that the consumer eventually can benefit from, apart from voice and interconnectivity, you would expect?
Mostly multimedia applications, video-based applications, or it can be even gaming applications as well.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them are what you're aware as basic commodity services available as of today, but the means of accessing users and means of providing these services to users, this is what's changing now.